bolts. Put one on each side, just to use them as sort of alignment bolts when you're sort of tapping this ring gear back down on the differential itself. So once again, we're going to tap this back into place with those two bolts in there just to kind of keep everything lined up. We're not going to worry about tapping it on all the way. We're just going to get it started so that way things are lined up, and we'll put the bolts in. When we start cross-tightening the bolts, that'll help pull the ring gear completely back into place. So we're just going to tap it a little bit, just kind of get it started. And then we'll go ahead and red Loctite our bolts, get them all in, and then get them started. Torque them down. So you use red Loctite on all these bolts. Finger start them. Okay, and then we'll use our impact wrench again to go ahead and tighten these. And we're going to use a cross-tightening pattern similar to like you would use on the wheel of your car. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just do a cross-tightening pattern all the way around. We're going to use an impact wrench for this. There are no available torque specs for these ring gear bolts. And so we're just going to use the old impact wrench here and get it on there as nice and tight as we can. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to insert these new bearings onto this differential. It's really hard to pull the old bearings off the old differential, and these are relatively inexpensive, so we usually just use new ones and just simply press them back onto this differential. Some people have been known to do this in a simple bench vise, pressing these back on. They're kind of that easy to do. We have an actual tool here to do that. Worst case scenario is you take your differential to an actual machine shop or auto parts store that might have a bearing press, and you can have these pressed right on. So that's what we're going to do. You want to make sure that you put these on the right direction, so the cone, the smaller portion of the cone kind of facing up. And so you kind of rest the bearing evenly on top of the differential, like that. I'm just going to put it down by some pressure here. Press this on. I want to make sure everything is lined up and centered if possible. That's what we're going to do now. And just like that. So you bottom that out. Loosen that up. Okay. Now we have our first bearing on our differential that we can use to just drop right in. So now we're going to flip it over, and we're going to do the other side as well. And we're done. Okay, so now that we have our two bearings pressed onto this new limited slip differential, we're going to drop it back in place, and we're going to re-torque those bolts again really quick with the impact wrench just to make sure they're really snug. Then we're going to go ahead and pour fluid in there, put some sealant around the outside edge, put the case back together. So let's go ahead and do that. Make sure that the race that the bearing is going into looks good. This one does. In this case, make sure there's no debris in there. It just sits right in there like that. Okay, and like I said, we're going to go back with the impact wrench and just hit everything again real quick, make sure it's torqued. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pour in the fluid. We like to use this Redline lightweight shockproof gear oil. A few reasons we like it is because it's really thick and syrupy, so it sticks to everything really well. The second reason is the color of it. It's like a milky blue color that you'll see in a second here when we pour it in. What I like about this is when you do that, if there's ever any leaks in the transmission, you'll know it because it won't be masked as engine oil or anything like that. If you see any oil leaks and it's blue, you know it's coming out of the transmission. So we'll go ahead and put some of that in right now. Okay, so now that we've basically got the 2 quarts of fluid in here, what we're going to do is put some nice non-hardening sealant around the outside edge of this case, and then we're going to go ahead and put the top half of the case back on, and go ahead and put all the Torx bolts back in. So go ahead and do that now. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and grab our other half of the case. Go ahead and set that on. And there's some guide pins in here. There's one there and there's one there. And basically those guide pins are what's going to help kind of keep this in position. Just use your hammer again. Lightly tap it into place. Okay. Then what we'll do is we'll go back in and put all of our Torx bolts back in, and we'll be good to go. But that's the basics of putting in a limited slip differential. A fairly easy job if you already have your transmission out, and something we highly recommend.